everyone, I am starting in on a project I left off on last spring, I guess. We have this old walk-in attic space and it really could be converted to a craft room, a playroom, closet space. When we bought the house, a lot of this was not insulated. It was shiplap down here and insulated here. We added insulation here. Later on, we added insulation on this outside part because originally there was a doorway from the front bedroom into here and the back bedroom to here. Well, creepy little attic spaces for kids, right? So we want to finish it off and make it a nice additional like bonus space. So when we redid the roof, we took out roof vents here and the other end because if it's an insulated space, you don't need that. There's roof vents higher up, so keep that in mind if you're doing anything like that. This is the perfect opportunity to add a closet space if you wanted to divide the areas at all, because there could be a bookshelf built in here, there could be a doorway built in here to that area. Even enough space that if you had somebody to configure some plumbing, then you could put in an extra little half bath there. All kinds of options. Linen closet. So here, it's real hard to tell. Right there's a line. There used to be a doorway in this front room to that side also. I'll go this way too. It's kind of a twofer in this deal. We have this dead space right here. That same closet attic space is the actual closets for the bedrooms, and there's nothing here. It's like a secret room or a panic room. So just your wall, and then both closets end right here. So we decided to not creep out little kids further. We're going to put in an access door here so that we can get in there and insulate that. These closets are cold as heck in the wintertime, and he has insulated the attic space, and this area I believe has blown-in insulation. I'm not for sure. It actually feels kind of cold. These old houses had really cheap coal and oil heat, so they didn't do the best insulating. So that's why you see like circles in old wood siding. They later on went in, drilled holes, and put blown-in insulation in. So we're going to do insulated batting in here and blown-in insulation in the floor areas. And then if we need to, we can always go back here and do blown-in insulation from the inside of the house, because we have to warm this space up. With the oil heat, it warms up and keeps really nice and cozy, but it's just a draft point in this house. Up here has all new insulation in the attic. So we're going to be working on these spaces in this week. So previously I told you we filled in these plugs. They had been drilled out for blown-in insulation above the kitchen ceiling and this attic space. So that helped keep the kitchen a lot warmer. And that's the same thing that I'm thinking of in those closets in the sidewalls, because it probably doesn't have this at all. And every extra barrier we can do for comfort, we're going to do. So because this has this nice shiplap here, they did this in the space going down to the basement also. I want to paint it white and clean this floor with cleaner and put a clear coat on it to match this floor. It's the same boards, everything, just years of dirt. So you can go back on my videos on that. I'll include, you know, some montage video of that sort of thing. Today I'm working on these plywood boards. Now you can get Luan, which is real lightweight and cheap. We actually found this for free at a local factory. They get shipping crates, and this is the tops and bottoms and even some of the sides of the crates. So we can start cutting this and filling it in. So it is going to kind of mimic the shiplap, which has been very popular in the last few years, and give this more of a usable space. And maybe we'll put in some different light fixtures here. We've just got bare light bulbs, a couple 100-watt bulbs. And right now I'm running a space heater just because it's probably something like 30, 38 degrees outside today and rainy. So I've got to chill anyway. Because it's cold and we have insulation down in this lower part, we've double checked that there were holes and everything, and we've redone electrical at some point, so we know kind of what was where. I have some leftover exterior paint that I wasn't real fond of, so I'm gonna mix that up with some bins 1, 2, 3 just as a primer coat, because I think this plywood is gonna really soak it up. So I've already gone through and nipped out all the nails out of these boards the best I could, and I'm just gonna basically spend my day today getting these a primer coat. See right there, there's plugs going along the length of the house, and above that window I am up in this space up here. But then if I look up here on the back of the house where this eaves goes and there's the return, there's blown in insulation plugs there going along the length of the wall there. So I know that area has been insulated. Now the crates from the factory were put together with these brad nails or pin nails. There are different lengths that you can use, so we know we can use these. I'm just not sure about them getting nailed in securely to the 2x4s. So it'll do up to 2-inch brad nails, and on hand right now I believe I have 1.5. We are going to see about our pressure regulator because I don't know for certain if I want to do that. You can use what's called a crown nail stapler that might be a little heavier duty, so I'm going to look into that also and look at the gauge of the wire of those nails. So it doesn't look like much yet, but I've got 3 sides of the shiplap painted. I still have to do this wall, but I've got all my stacks over there. I started in on the panels and I moved everything from this side over. It was just kind of a layout thing. 1 coat of paint, mixing in. I'm glad I mixed in that primer. This exterior paint, like I was saying, it was super thin. My bins 1, 2, 3 primer was a little thick, and I think it actually felt a little thicker than usual, maybe from the lid not sealing, so it evened everything out, so I didn't get splatter. But this is 1 coat. It actually looks like whitewashing, so you could stop there. I'm gonna do actual paint over the top, but it's looking pretty good. Let's go over in the other closet and see how that project's going. So here's our bonus space here, and this is all a bunch of insulation that he pulled out. When they did blown-in insulation, they found this cavity and they just kept going. There was no insulation hitting this opposite closet wall. It was all piled up here and on this side. But we had noticed after we did the roof last year, there was a heat loss going on here. So this is what we wanted to access. That's going to get some rolled insulation there, and somebody could finish that off and have it be a bonus space for linens. Got a little piece. A little piece. So we could actually see up in the attic the white insulation that is up there. So he thinks that they were up in the attic blowing the insulation down into these areas, not realizing they were in this cavity. So that'll make a difference. So I was actually really on the fence about this project for some time, and it ends up being that this space gets end up used for excess clothing, holiday decorations, and with square footage in houses these days, you need to take advantage of everywhere you can. You see I'm ducking a little bit. So head clearance is something to consider in real estate. I was told that if it's a minimum of 7 feet, you can't count that square footage. So this bonus space, as we call it, isn't going to add to any square footage of the home, or making that other space into a closet. It's just the functionality. You know, people are spending thousands of dollars a year on storage units. So if you're gonna move up from a rental into a home you're gonna buy, you want as much excess space as you can. Now this house has a single car garage, so there's that. But you might want to put your car in it and not fill it with stuff. So this space definitely adds to that. You know, like I said, the possibilities are endless. This is a house that we've had for a rental for years. And the goal in the long run is to sell the house with as high a price we can bring as possible. And to do that, you have to have the house like move-in ready. It doesn't need a bunch of projects started. Millennials who are buying houses these days don't maybe have the DIY skills, and that comes along with buying a house. So having non-insulated, you know, attic space is a down point in a home, so having it insulated helps. We've got that space over in the other area all done, and we started thinking about, okay, is taking hours of work into carpentry going to benefit us? It's better for us to just button it back up with it insulated and move on with this project, because we're actually in the middle of a roofing project. Today was just a rain day that took us away from that, and tomorrow he's going to be back on that roof working on it again. So this was just, like I said, a bonus day. We've got a weekend coming and a holiday. Those are going to be bonus days working on this project as well. And it's bonus supplies also, because we're not spending any money on this. Okay, so I've gotten my boards as far as I can for today. I'm going to quit here and let these dry. Then I can move all these over tomorrow to this side, get the ones behind it, and get this wall. This is a good stopping point for me. The temperature in here is roughly 60-65 degrees. Latex paint has to be 50 degrees, so it'll stay above that tonight. Tomorrow with the sun shining on the roof, it's going to be plenty warm in here to keep working, and as the boards go up, it just makes the temperature in this area warmer because you won't be getting any draft. The new insulation is all like R13. You can go as heavy and as thick as you want. So I think this is pretty good insulated. We've got no gaps down here at the bottom. Don't even bother with spray foam insulation. It is a mess. It's better to just use as much as this or blown in insulation as you need. You can see we've gone through and filled any gaps that we could to make sure that it's nice and warm. This is one of those projects that individual boards like of shiplap would be perfect, but with lumber prices being what they are, Home Depot can take whole sheets of plywood and cut it into strips for you, but now they're starting to, at some locations, limit how many cuts they'll do for you, so you can't get, you know, like 12 boards out of one 4x8 board anymore, just kind of depending on the location. Ripping them perfectly straight on a table saw is an option if you have that. We've always had such trouble with what's called tear out. Like this is a tear out piece here. That's really disappointing when you're buying whole sheets of stuff at, you know, $30, $40 a board. Sheets of like wall paneling, that ranges from $20 to maybe $40 to do some space like this. Like this would be the perfect combination for, some have like a printed barnwood sort of look, or beadboard to go in another direction, or even hang it the other way, so that you would just be switching to smaller lengths. However, it's very thin. It is probably 1/8 of an inch thick. Where here we're dealing with probably slightly less than half. I don't know, 3/8 maybe. So that's it for tonight. I'm going to see about some staples on my way tomorrow. Maybe we can start putting this up. And in case husband decides to keep working, I wanted to show you this. We have decided to add boards here as a nailing surface, we're going to just go ahead and get some 5/8 drywall and skim coat over this to patch it up, because like what we cut out is lath with plaster over the top, and it's really hard to match that up. And the lath at the store now is half this thick, so I would probably have to double it up. But you see, we filled that all back in with insulation, and we won't be getting heat loss coming up the stairs to this point at all. We won't be heating that space. So today's project is we are going to light this space here. We have a ceiling light at the top of the stairs, simple flush mount 2-bulb light, and it provides a good amount of light. But without any light here, this stairway can be pretty dark on a cloudy, rainy day in the evening. And we really wanted to add another light. It's not too difficult. So up in the attic up above, here is the wiring and the light fixture above the stairs. We're going to be able to tie into this junction box and be able to extend that wire down to the other side over there and down into that space we cut open yesterday. I was thinking about this space this morning, and of course we've put the blown in insulation back in. He's going to have to work through that a little bit. And then he'll be able to create the space there where he's going to be putting the mounting box for that light fixture, and it'll run off of the same switch. So I can't really tell you how to do the wiring, because you either know or you don't. And if you don't, call an electrician. But what we've done is we're running this wire down from up there, that's the light space of the attic that's above, into this little attic space. And he just happened to think of it and remembered that we wanted to do that. So it was really great. And I had a flush mount light on hand that matched already for another project. So I just grabbed that. If you look at some of our other videos in the past, I renovated my old house and put in all new light fixtures, and they're just real simple, just a ground wire, black and white, hook it up. And the nice thing about these lights is they have a big opening to cover up your electrical box there, and the screws, the mounting screws, come right down real easy, and they go up into here. They're fairly simple to install and put up. Just for a quick update on an old house, everything in this house, in this area, is plaster, so this big circumference covers a lot of flaws that start showing up in old houses. You get little cracks in the lath and plaster here and there, but overall they're great lights. Some people prefer track lighting or pendant lights. This house has not even a chandelier in the dining area. I actually had to make a swag light to put there to have that additional light. And this house is too simple or farmhousey for a bougie chandelier in this area. So we just thought with going with the flush mount with 2, you could do 3 or 4 bulbs. We have those as well. You could add as much brightness as you want and as much wattage of a bulb as you want. And here's where I ended up in this attic space today. All of this got a coat. I started realizing that paint was almost like whitewash. It's soaking into the wood so much, and I thought this is the thinnest paint I've ever worked with, even after thickening it with the bins. I wonder if somebody added water to it and returned it. So this is a lot better. We realize this area has been dark for 100 years. So we've been moving along with our project, and that's all insulated, and we have done the drywall. So we are going to go ahead and do mud and tape. You don't want to just mud alone, because eventually it will show cracks, like where that 1/4 inch gap is. So we're going to mud and tape. You put a thin layer of mud, use the tape, fill it in. Now for most homeowners, just these tubs of joint compound or spackle would do the job. Spackle is more for just nail holes and small patches like over the screw heads. The joint compound is for specifically taping and mudding, so we like to do that. This is a non-premixed version. Every time I buy a big tub of this, for some reason this got put away. The good thing that probably made me buy it is with dust control, so then when you're sanding you don't get a lot of dust. You can buy a large bag, it's probably 10 or 20 pounds of powder, and mix it as you need it. So that's what I'm doing here, because every time we do a project, one of these gets left behind or lost. It's probably been frozen and thawed over and over. I don't even know, and I cannot find a date on it. I need to add a lot of water to it to make it actually usable. So I just grabbed some powder because I already had it on hand, and it's looking like a real nice, very heavy consistency. Thicker than butter, you know, not as thick as cake frosting. So we're gonna go ahead and get this used. This has about a 45-minute set time. They actually have some with a faster set time, so you can do all your work in one day. I'm going to be just doing my top coat today. The house is pretty warm, not, you know, like 70 degrees, but ooh, we got a sunny day today, and it is warming up that upstairs. Now this is conventional drywall tape. You just put some mud on your crease, and because this is like a 1/4 inch crack, some of that mud is going to go in there and fill that. Now if I was not to use the tape, eventually with the house settling, temperature changes, you would see a crack later on. And in these old plaster walls you see cracks between the lath anyway. That is a different compound or mud mix made for plaster or plaster compound instead of joint compound for drywall. So if you're doing patches like that, you may want to note that. Now this trowel is different than just this putty knife. This is good for loading up this knife. These have a bit of a curve to them so that you can build up this section in the center without getting it built up on the outside. When you have a new piece of drywall, it has a slightly pressed edge here so that you can add that mud and tape between pieces without it building up. We're just kind of having to feather this in on our own because we don't have that benefit with a patch. Now you might wonder if this insulating project was worth all the work. Well, if I had to hire a guy, maybe not. But in a house this size, you can end up with some pretty steep heat bills. We don't want that heat just escaping and rising out of here. And like I said, you could see that on the roof when there was snow. So we knew we had to open this up and do more. They had apparently tried to do something about it at some point with that blown-in insulation. And that's part of the reason why we're doing it ourselves. We're not hiring some flunky to come in and screw it up. Now, I'm not saying all those guys are flunkies. There's some real professional guys that care about their work. It's the guys that work for the guy who owns the company. And that's a problem. So, we've owned this house for a long time. And this is one of those jobs that just didn't get done. Okay, so you see I got my first layer of mud, and I've already pre-cut this. It's not super precise. It's not rocket science. No one's gonna die. See, you're just pressing that into that mud, and you can build it up if it needs to be built up, a layer at a time. But in the end, you're going to be covering up all of this tape with more layers of mud. It's called a skim coat. So well, technically it's a tape coat. A skim coat is when you go over the whole thing. So, like right now, I'm just going to fill in those screw heads. And just like that, they're done. Now there's always some shrinkage with this. And that's the thing about coming back later on. You get to fill in any shrinkage and take care of it. Now, you have to allow for that and temperature changes. So, you know, maybe in the next day or so, it's gonna get a little colder. And it might take a little longer for the mud to dry. Now, I don't want my tapes to overlap because I don't want to start adding a layer of thickness. And a little blood right there. There we go. See that? Ooh, caught my first one. Anything extra you're scraping off now is going to save with sanding later on. So keep that in mind. So that's the basics of that. I'm just going to keep going around. See how I'm just feathering that up into the drywall. Had we not had the right thickness, you could just keep adding a skim coat over the top to make up that thickness difference. So this is the drywall mix or compound, and you just add a little water to it to get the consistency that you like. I have done this for an amount of years. I think my first drywall job, I was in my early 20s, and I didn't know about the cut edge on the drywall and things like that. So these tips are intended to help you and provide you the most success. There is no exact mix of, probably an expert would tell you, you know, oh, it's a perfect ratio of 3-to-1 or something, water to powder. I just eyeball it, and if it feels good to me, then I know. Get a good mix so you don't have any dry. You don't want to pick that up later and have it affecting your mix. That looks like plenty of water. I just got to blend it. to get on to the next one. See how much better the light is here during the day? It's just fantastic to not just start out in such a dark space. It's a lot better. That whole boxed area was just making it so dark down there. Hi, this light couldn't do the job. Okay, so today we are checking out our closet patch. It's dry. It's real cold up here. It took a little while. We're gonna go ahead. This is a drywall sanding block, and they have sanding paper that you can mount on a pole. I have that as well, but for this small of a job, these work really well. Some people call them a wet dry sponge, or they'll do what's called a knockdown. You can actually knock down these thicker, higher spots right with a putty knife dry and save yourself a lot of sanding. This has a coarser side and a smoother side for finish work. And I've actually had people that work in apartment repair and maintenance, and they always use these wet. Now that can leave quite a mess, but with no dust, these just get gummed right up, and that's why this is looking as it is. That material just dissolves from the wall into this, and then you kind of lose your sanding material. Some people would just do it with a sponge, and it's referred to as wet sanding. Now this doesn't have to be perfect, because just to show you like my original plaster job from 100 years ago, it's rough. They sent their apprentice up here. It's obvious because, boy, when you get right up in there, you can see it. Also, a quick tip, if you use your shop vac either on the brush or just open while you're sanding, you're going to be collecting a lot of the dust so that it's not collecting into your floor. I kind of started in and remembered I wanted to do this as I go because it really does help reduce a lot of the dust. So yesterday I was able to finish sanding on this wall, and today I'm getting my final coat of paint on it. Look at that. I thought this was a good spot to end the video and put in a little quick suggestion. If you were to ever want like a safe room, a wall safe, anything like that, just excess storage, like I had said before, building a shelf or a bookcase in here for your purses and shoes, this was the time to do it, because having that open, now it's all insulated. I can tell you the temperature difference in this upstairs front room has been drastic. Now the back room literally is the back room. It does not get sun, and the temperature in that room is just amazing difference. It was just always cold, and when I get the attic area off of that, more finished with plywood walls and whatnot, or shiplap, whichever way we decide to go with that, it's going to be great. So this is the end of this project. We're going to let this dry, double check it for any touch-up coats, but that is installing a hallway light in one of those high ceilings in your hallway by accessing the panel, the ceiling area behind your closet. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.